the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, topics, stipulations, first down, played it. Presenting topics from Kanye to Tom Brady. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. What a show we got for you today. That's another Football Friday. College Football National Championship. There is still a National Championship game going to happen on Monday night. We'll talk about that. Has the layoff hurt the relevancy and the importance of this game as well? Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. Who would you rather have? And also, if Clemson wins this game, are they the new Bama? And how magical of a season it would be if LSU were to actually win this national championship. And also, who's winning the national championship? 2 14-0 teams. Time will tell. It's only a couple days away. And then the NFL. It's divisional round. But we're also talking about something that Dave Gettleman said last night that he's not 100% wrong on, that he's been getting bashed about. And are the days of the pocket passer quarterback dead? But let me start off with this. And we were just talking, Ted, and I was like, Ted, what do you want? What should we lead off with? And he said, get right to it. There's nothing sexy about it. It's football weekend. It's divisional round. It's the best weekend in the NFL, as most people say, and as experts say. It's the best weekend. We get to see the best of the best. With the exception of the Minnesota Vikings winning the game last week. You have the best of the best playing this weekend.
This is considered the most exciting NFL weekend of all of the entire season. The divisional round has always been looked at that because the wild card teams, they're not the teams with the best records. They're the teams that just barely got in usually, and then the two other teams are the division leaders.
Yes.
But the two best teams of each conference is going to be having the home games. Mm-hmm. They're going to be the leaders of the pack.
Yep.
And usually you're going to get the 4 best teams. Now, like you said, with the exception of the New Orleans Saints, I think you have the 4 best teams in each conference playing this weekend. And you think about the talent.
And you said it. Tennessee was the better team than New England the last weekend.
Absolutely.
So they're in it for a reason. They're not there because of a fluke performance. They're there because they run the football. And like I said, we'll talk about that later on in the show. We'll discuss why running the football is maybe the major key ingredient to winning a Super Bowl. But we always talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. This is a quarterback-driven league, right? This is what you start your franchise with, right? It's the most important position in maybe all the sports, right? Okay. So we look at all the matchups. You look at the AFC, you look at the NFC. The AFC, there's 3 great young rising stars in this league, and Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. And then you got the rejuvenance of a new career, the rejuvenated career of Ryan Tannehill.
Are you making words up right now?
I am, because there is people that make up words in this world. It just happens. It seems like it to me.
Maybe even across from you.
But the Ryan Tannehill story, an amazing story. And then you look at the NFC. You got 2 unknowns. You got 2 question marks. Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G. And then you got the 2 Hall of Famers, and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. So that's how we're going to start with it in the NFC. And it's very simple. And I'm not going to talk about the comparisons with the quarterback in the AFC because, well, let's be honest. You're taking Lamar Jackson over Ryan Tannehill, and most people would say they're taking Patrick Mahomes over Deshaun Watson. So this question was mainly about the NFC. And we'll also talk about as well, quarterbacks, who do you trust more? The 4 quarterbacks in the AFC and the NFC, who do you trust more? And as well, Jimmy G. Does he face the most pressure out of the 4 NFC quarterbacks? And Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. But like I said, the NFC, you have 2 evenly matchups, 2 evenly matched teams, and you have 2 quarterbacks or 4 quarterbacks that are in the same plethora of talk, of discussion. So we start off with the first game. Kirk Cousins against Jimmy G. The San Francisco 49ers, the Minnesota Vikings. We're surprised by this because we were expecting that this was supposed to be the San Francisco 49ers against the Green Bay Packers because the Saints were supposed to win last week. Or not the San Francisco, you get my point.
I understand what you're saying.
But because of Kirk Cousins and the great throw that he made and the play of his team, they're in the next round. So it's a very simple question. And it starts with the first game. Jimmy G. We know the story. Got the big contract, his first playoff game. What are we going to see from him? And then you get Kirk Cousins. The biggest game of his life last weekend. He wins. He delivers. But who would you rather have, Ted? Would you rather have Jimmy G or would you rather have Kirk Cousins? I'm going to ask you the same question as well with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers as well in a few.
It's really simple for me. But my answer has changed within a week, and it's Kirk Cousins. And the one reason why I say that is because last week proved something to me. For the longest time in Kirk Cousins' history, it was always the what if or why not, or he just couldn't get over the hump. There was always a but. There was a question mark. There was something that everyone else didn't want to believe in. And I always said, I thought he had something special. But like when he was with the Redskins, we saw so many times and we're Giant fans, and we'll speak it from that perspective, how many times he would blow opportunities in the fourth quarter, red zone opportunities, throw a pick. And you're like, listen, this guy is a great stat pattern. He's great for fantasy. Mm-hmm. But when it comes in the big time games, he didn't come up. He doesn't come up big.
Yep.
And then last week to prove to, I think, a lot of people in America that you can go into a hostile environment in New Orleans. And I said to you the other day, I said, do you realize the touchdown pass that he threw to Kyle Rudolph? He botched a snap on the shotgun snap. He botched it, got it together, and made the correct throw. And it was a perfect pass, misplayed poorly by the defensive back for New Orleans. But right now it's Kirk Cousins. And the reason why I say that is because he has the experience of playing in this game. And I know you're going to ask the question later on, but the reason why I take Kirk Cousins is because there was more pressure on Kirk Cousins last week
than there is this week.
Because not that they thought he was going to win last week. Yeah, I'm not saying that. It's because this week, when I look at it, Jimmy G is the number one seed. He's the number one quarterback for San Francisco 49ers. He was the one that was paid $126 million after like 13 starts for the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
There's an expectation, I think, from the outside. It's like, listen, Jimmy G, first playoff game. What do you got? What are you going to give me? You got the best team, right? You have the better team. You have the better coaching staff. There's an expectation. You have the home field advantage. You're supposed to win. So I'm going to take Kirk Cousins. That's it.
Okay.
Plain and simple. You're going to take Kirk Cousins. He's playing.
Here's my thing, and I know people will say, "Oh, well, Jimmy G, this is an easy answer." It's pretty simple. I would take Kirk Cousins as well, and whatever you want, that's fine. But we still don't know what we're going to see from Jimmy G this weekend. We don't. He's played great this year. Don't get me wrong. That was one of the big questions coming into this year. Was what was Jimmy G going to do, and how was he going to bounce back from the torn ACL injury? Well, he's played well. He played at times great. But now it's crunch time. This is where you make your legacy. This is where you, and I've said this a countless amount of times, this is where you create your legacy. And it's in the playoffs. You could do whatever you want in the regular season. But it comes down to legacy in the playoffs. You want to win a championship, you have to be great. There's a reason why Joe Flacco will always be in the history books. There's a reason why Eli Manning will always be in the history books as a Super Bowl winner, because they were great when mattered most. And these quarterbacks at the time, during this time right now, are in the same category as those two at that respective time. Flacco and Eli were not great quarterbacks. They were good. They were but there were still question marks. Jimmy G has that question mark. Kirk Cousins had that question mark going in last week. Now, did anybody expect Minnesota to win last week? I certainly didn't. I thought that was the one game last week that you were easily saying, bam, I'm all in on the Saints. Every other game you're like, I don't know.
That was definitely the game that I thought.
Yes.
Would have the better chance of being the blowout.
Without question, most people in the country thought, for a football fan specifically, you thought that was the one game without question. But Kirk Cousins went into a hostile environment, and it's one of the toughest places to play in all the NFL. Seattle and New Orleans, without question, the two hardest places to play in the NFL. And Kirk Cousins made the throw of his life to Adam Thielen. And he played just great enough to win. And that's what it comes down to. You have to play great in those moments. He played great when it mattered most. When his team needed him. Unlike past situations, when his team needed him, he failed. But last weekend, when his team needed him at most, he delivered. He made the throw of his life, and then he made probably the second throw of his life to win the game, the walk-off touchdown to win the game. I know Jimmy G had a better year this year. The team had a better year. But what I'm talking about is who would you rather have for this game? I take Kirk Cousins because he did it finally.
That's so surprising that you would say that.
And I'm not a Kirk Cousins believer. And I've been one of the main people.
You're not wrong by whoever you select. Because Kirk Cousins had great numbers this year. If you look at his numbers statistically since week 5, he's been a top 5 quarterback.
Yep.
Now I know everyone's going to give me an argument on all these other analytical things.
That's fine.
And that's okay.
Fine. I understand. Everybody has an opinion. It's all right.
We had a debate with Uncle Jerry last night about just certain things with regards to Hall of Famers and is it winning? Is it championship rings? What's your value? Because everyone looks at it a different way. Jimmy G has played exceptionally well this year.
Yes.
He has. But
he's never
played in a playoff game.
I need to see it. And that's what it comes down to. Kirk Cousins finally delivered when needed to, and he did it last week. I know, look, it's only one game, but it was a game that nobody gave them a chance. With the exception of the state of Minnesota, nobody was giving the Minnesota Vikings a chance. They delivered, they won. I'll take Kirk Cousins, and that's saying a lot from a guy that has been anti-Cousins. And every time we discuss Kirk Cousins, I've been the one. You've given him more credit than I do. Now, I bash him more.
I want to say something else to the reason why I chose Kirk Cousins, because I know some people think I'm wrong. When I look at these two teams, I look at mirror images of each other. They are mirror images. Jimmy G is Kirk Cousins. They are. Jimmy G is just a younger Kirk Cousins that hasn't proved it yet. These both teams have great offensive lines. These teams both have great running games. Look at these two teams. The Vikings run the ball the second most amount for attempts, only behind the Baltimore Ravens, and we know that. The Baltimore Ravens are far and ahead of everyone in rushing this year by yards, more than 1,000 yards than anyone else. But they run the football. And I sent you with something the other day. 8 of the top rushing teams in the NFL during the regular season.
And we'll talk, I want to get into that in a little. I don't want to get into that discussion. So when I look at these teams,
they're mirror images.
Yeah.
They play great defenses. They both have probably the 2 best defenses in the NFL, talent-wise. You look at the Vikings. They have pass rushers from inside and out. They have great linebackers. They have great secondary. Look at the 49ers. They have the best pass defense in football. They have one of the best pass rush in football. You look at these teams are mirror images.
Yes.
The only difference is Mike Zimmer is more of a defensive-minded coach, and Kyle Shanahan is offensive-minded. And that's what and Kyle Shanahan is the reason why Jimmy G is as good as he is. And if you don't remember, Kyle Shanahan was also Kirk Cousins' offensive coordinator when he was in Washington.
And also, to add to that point, just ask Matt Ryan how he did with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator.
Now, that could be the difference why you might want Jimmy G is because he has Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, that could be, which is understandable.
But Stefanowski,
Kevin Stefanowski, the offensive coordinator, who is also going for an interview today with the Browns,
is also a very highly recommended offensive coordinator in the NFL. So there's a lot of similarities between these two teams. And I think this game will be an underrated game compared to what people think when they look at the Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers game and with the Mahomes
before
and Watson.
we get out of this, we will make our predictions for each game. So we'll see what happens. Who's going to conference championship Sunday? Let's get into the next game as well and the other quarterback matchup. Like I said, the NFC matchup, it's both matchups are so ideal. They're so mirror images of each other and these quarterbacks. And it starts with the quarterbacks. This one, the Hall of Fame matchup, the 640 matchup this Sunday, and maybe the most intriguing game of the weekend is the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. But Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson. This matchup, who would you rather have? Now, Aaron Rodgers, if we think about it, hasn't been in the playoffs since 2016. Let's take that into consideration. Everybody that loves the Aaron Rodgers thing. But Russell Wilson, what he continues to do each and every year with the talent that's surrounding him to deliver and be great consistently. I'm going to take Russell Wilson. I'd rather have Russell Wilson than Aaron Rodgers. Call me crazy, But for what this man has to do each and every week, battling injuries on this team, his 3 running backs out for the year, he had to get his old-time teammate back, Marshawn Lynch, to come back, to see them. And I know they played the Philadelphia Eagles, who were destroyed with injuries as well. But to see what Russell Wilson has done each and every year with the talent pool that surrounds him, it's amazing. It's fantastic to see how great of a player he is. You can't go wrong with either quarterback. That's the other thing. But if I had to take Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, I'm taking Russell Wilson. Also, since his Super Bowl run, Aaron Rodgers, you know what? I'll hold off because that's more for in a couple minutes of the pressure. But who would you rather have?
You can't go wrong with either. There is no correct answer on this. There is no.
You could go whatever one, whoever you like more.
The only reason why I would take Russell Wilson in certain circumstances is because of his athleticism.
Aaron Rodgers
but Russell Wilson's a little bit better runner.
Of course he is.
They're both prolific passers.
Yep.
I mean, if you want to start breaking down quarterbacks, I mean, look at the throw that.
You're putting both of them in your top 5 quarterbacks right now in the NFL.
Tyler Lockett, that throw in the corner of the end zone on Monday Night Football was amazing.
Yep.
I mean, look at the Pro Football. They show the commercial. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' throw on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs this year when he was falling down to the left. I mean, like the loop pass. I mean, these guys can do special things. The team-wise, Green Bay's the better team.
Well, who are you taking? Are you taking Rodgers or Wilson?
I don't
care about the team thing.
I'll take Rodgers because of one thing. This game is in Lambeau Field. And Rodgers has played in the cold a lot more, has been more successful in the cold. He's got the home field advantage. That's why I'll take Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Don't worry, AFC. We're coming to you right now. We're going to jump to you. Because we haven't talked about the AFC. We've been talking about the NFC. And we'll get into the NFC as well again, but it's about trust. And trust is a very important word in the world. And this is not just for the NFL, but you have to trust people nowadays. There's not a lot of trust in people. You don't trust a lot. You don't trust friends sometimes. You don't trust family members a lot nowadays. But you look at all these franchises right now, and I think the most important thing is that they have trust in their quarterback. They have faith in him, in each and every one of them. Even the Tennessee Titans, they have faith in Ryan Tannehill. But who do you trust out of the 4 quarterbacks the most?
In the AFC?
In the AFC right now. I want to start with the AFC.
For me, that's easy. It's Mahomes 1, Watson 2, Lamar 3, Tannehill 4. And there's no argument. Okay. Don't tell me Lamar because it's one season and he had a great regular season. We've seen this before. Peyton Manning had great regular seasons and then it looked like crap in the playoffs. So don't give me that excuse. Now, next week, if you want to come back at me and say, Ted, look at what he did against the Tennessee Titans, all right. But let's wait and see type of thing, okay? I know what Mahomes can do in the playoffs. He's 1 inch and 1 idiot and finger away from being in the Super Bowl last year because someone wanted to line up off sides. Watson's spectacular. We've seen it. Saw it last week again. He's a highlight film reel every week. The team his supporting cast is not that great. It's him, DeAndre Hopkins, and J.J. Watt, and everyone else. There was no reason for them to be in that game last week except for Deshaun Watson. So if I'm going to rank them, I'm going to rank Mahomes first because I think he is, if not the best quarterback in the entire NFL. I think talent-wise, he's the best quarterback in the league, and I think if he just can win these games and get to the Super Bowl, he will prove that he is the best quarterback in the NFL. Okay. I think I saw what Deshaun Watson did last week when they were down last week. He is a proven commodity. I've seen it. I saw it against Alabama in the national championship game. I've seen it in big games. I don't have to use stats and Pro Football Focus. I look in my eyes. I played the game of football. From my perspective, I know what I'm looking at. You can disagree with me. That's fine. That's why this is what makes sports so incredible because everyone has their own opinion on how they feel about things.
Exactly.
Lamar Jackson, he's been the best quarterback this season. Question of doubt. There's not an argument there.
Anybody that says otherwise is not watching the same product.
He threw for 36 passing touchdowns and he ran for over 1,200 yards. Yep. Okay, it was video game-esque. He was the best quarterback in football this season.
Not saying he's the best right now. He had the best season.
No, we got to see what it does. And then Tannehill, listen, he had a great regular season to finish off the end of the season, okay? Yep. He was a top 5 quarterback statistically at the end of the season. Completion percentage, yards per attempt, every number that you want to go by. Go look at the numbers. But last week, they didn't win the game because of him. They won it because Derrick Henry was the best player on the football field, and they could not stop him. So that's why he is 4th.
Okay. Me personally, I know this is going to come a bit of a surprise. If I had to do my trust rating, Deshaun Watson would be my number 1. Because like you just said, Ted, we are football players. We've played it. We've been around the game.
Now, I haven't played in the NFL. Sorry.
We've been around the game forever. And it's been through our family, and it's been in our family forever. It's in our blood.
Our father coached for 27 years. I played from when I was 8 to I was 22.
Look,
I also coached.
Look,
and then I also now officiate. So I've seen the game from all three sides.
I commentate. I commentate. Now I don't ref. But that's another story.
But it doesn't mean we're always right.
It doesn't. But I get a good eye from seeing great football players. That's why when I said a month or so ago, I'm not surprised at what Lamar Jackson has done. I'm not surprised at what Christian McCaffrey has done because they're great football players. I would pick Deshaun Watson because he's been in moments like this. I know that this team is probably not going to win because they are just a Deshaun Watson-based team and nobody else, it seems like, is around. Okay? I'm not saying he's the best out of the 4 either, but I'm saying that I trust him the most. And let's get that difference, okay? Because I know people are going to jump down my throat and say, oh, come on, Mahomes is the greatest quarterback since sliced. That's great. I get the point. But I'm saying that Deshaun Watson, if I had to trust a person, because he's been in situations like that. Mahomes has delivered last year too, but I need to see more of it. And it comes down to that. Lamar would be my 3rd, and I love Lamar Jackson.
Did you say you were taking Watson 1?
Yes.
Oh, I'm not surprised, man.
But I know other people will be oh, you're out of your damn mind. No, I'm not. Because I've seen it. I've seen it for years. I've seen it since college.
Dan Graziano was on NFL Live the other day, and they did something similar to this. And they said rank the 4 AFC quarterbacks. And he had Deshaun Watson number 1.
Yeah, because it's not crazy to put Deshaun as number 1.
Because maybe if Deshaun Watson's playing in Baltimore, maybe if Deshaun Watson is
if he's playing in Baltimore,
or is in Kansas City with Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and the offensive line and the running backs, we might have a different perspective. Okay, you can only be as good as you can be with the surrounding cast. Now think about it. What would Houston be without Deshaun Watson? They would be a top 5 pick. I'll make this thing. When Matt Moore had a substitute for Patrick Mahomes for the injury against the Green Bay. Now, I know they lost, but they were not that bad. If you watch the game, it wasn't like they got
He just puts them on another stratosphere.
He puts them in a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So I think Kansas City would still be a 7-8 win team. Houston without Deshaun Watson's a 3 to 4 win team. So that's a 4-game difference.
That's a fact.
Now, I think if Mahomes was in the Texans, they would be just as good as what Deshaun Watson. But I'm just saying, when you're with Patrick Mahomes and you're surrounded by the talent, when you got Hardman and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams and Andy Reid as your play caller and
Eric Bieniemy as your offensive coordinator. I mean,
you're talking about outstanding talent
and personnel as well.
And as a puzzle pieces, it all fits great.
That's why I picked Deshaun Watson. Now, let me get into the NFC as well, because I think this is really a 2-man race between the two, and we kind of just talked about them just not too long ago.
Oh, I switched over to the AFC
and if you didn't get to see the first part of the show, you could check us out on Spotify and YouTube at Keys to the City.
What picture we want to go to right now?
Let's just go back to the picture we just used.
Well, I had the Lamar Jackson and
we'll talk. But these are the two. These are 2 best quarterbacks in the NFC for this season. With the exception of Breeze, these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFC. In the NFC.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went to the Kansas City one. I apologize.
No, the NFC. We're talking the NFC right now. And
that's okay.
The other 2 are there. Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G are there. We just talked about them. Who do you trust more? But it comes down to these 2 quarterbacks. Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Who do you trust out of those 2? And me, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson again. I trust Russell Wilson. I can understand if people pick Aaron Rodgers because he's delivered in the playoffs when he gets there. Just ask Dallas. He's won a Super Bowl. I understand that. but I've seen Russell Wilson do the exact same thing, and we just saw it last week as well. We just saw him deliver a beautifully thrown ball to DK Metcalf on a 3rd and 11.
Great call.
Where most teams, I'd say about 75 to 80% of teams are going to be running the ball in a situation like that. No, they took a chance with their quarterback, and they threw the ball. That's trust. Russell Wilson, to me, if I had to put the order, Russell Wilson is 1, Aaron Rodgers is 2. Number 3, I'm going with Kirk Cousins because I saw it last week. And then 4, to me, is Jimmy G.
I'll switch it. I'll take Rodgers because
so kind of like what you just did with the Rodgers. Okay.
And then I'll take Rodgers 1. I'll take Russell 2. And and people are gonna look at that's a slight to Russell Wilson. It's not, because if I could put them both to 1, I would, and I'd skip 2 and
you could do 1A, 1B.
I would go 1-1 and then 3 and 4. Now we were going to find an answer this weekend at 4:35 on Saturday afternoon for the Jimmy G Kirk Cousins thing. Now, if Jimmy G's offensive line gets terrorized like it did that last Sunday night football game against Green Bay, the second to last week, the Green Bay game where Green Bay, I told you, you're like, Kirk Cousins stinks tonight. I'm like, listen.
Oh, the Monday night game? He was horrible. Game. Yeah.
And I know someone's going to correct me on it. If he's getting killed because Nick Bosa and D Ford and
Eric Armstead, DeForest
all
Buckner,
those guys on
Solomon Thomas
on the 49ers now, which are now healthy, are destroying the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, I'm not going to blame him. But if he has crucial points where he has opportunities to make a play and he does it, I'm going to fault him for that. So I will stick with Kirk Cousins because when we started the show, you started with Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins. And I said I would take Kirk Cousins because I'm not talking about future. I'm not talking about past. I said I would take Kirk Cousins over Jimmy G right now in this game only because of last week's game. If Jimmy G was playing in last week's game and Kirk Cousins was on the bye and Jimmy G won, I would take Jimmy G, and that's why. I just saw him beat the New Orleans Saints, and the New Orleans Saints at the beginning of the season was my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
Jimmy G also beat. I know. They also beat the Saints too.
I thought the New Orleans Saints were going to win the Super Bowl this year because I thought 3rd was a charm. And going into the playoffs, I thought the Saints were the best team going into the playoffs because the way they were performing. Drew Brees had not been playing this great, I don't think, ever in his career. Michael Thomas was a beast. Alvin Kamara was starting to look like it. Their defense was shut down. And then they were going to have the home game, at least for the wild card round.
And we all thought that was a guarantee.
And I thought that was a guarantee because...
we thought it was a guarantee. That's why there's no guarantees in life except... Well, I can't even say it anymore because the New England Patriots lost. But that's why it comes down to now, there's only 2 guarantees in life. Death and taxes. And that is a certainty.
What'd you think, taxes? Oh, yeah.
Death and taxes. So the 4 for you were, as you said, you had Rodgers, Wilson, Cousins. Okay. So let's get into... We just talked about trust. So,
what pitch are we going with? What do we want to go with?
We just talked about trust and how you have to trust people in life. Well, there's not a lot of trust factors in the world, and people don't trust anymore. And that's the thing. There's a lack of trust within the country. But these teams trust their quarterbacks. Now, there's another term that a lot of people don't like to hear. It's pressure. Nobody likes to be pressured in the world. But how do you deal with facing with pressure? Dealing with the adversity. And there's 2 quarterbacks that we've talked about countless amount of times on this show. And today we've talked about one of them a lot. And you look at it, Jimmy G. Does out of the 4 quarterbacks in this NFC picture, is he the one that faces the most pressure? Now you would say, oh, maybe Wilson, maybe Rodgers, Cousins shouldn't be in this position right now because we never thought that Cousins was going and this team was going to be here. But you look at it, Jimmy G had a good year. At times he was great. Got the $137.5 million contract he just signed. But now we get to really see Jimmy G, playoff Jimmy G. We've seen him in the regular season. Oh, well, he was good with the Patriots. They won. They won this year. Okay. Playoffs is a whole different animal. Am I wrong? Playoffs is a whole different animal.
You don't see me arguing.
It takes the next step from here to being good to taking that next step to being great. And just ask Jim Kelly, just ask Warren Moon, just ask Dan River,
they were great in the playoffs.
They were great. They never won though, but they were always great, but they were never all-time great because they can never win the big one.
I know someone's going to argue, but I would use the A-Rod thing in baseball because when baseball playoffs came around, He had 52 home runs during the regular season, batted 325, and then he would bat 143 in the playoffs. You got to be great.
To be legendary.
And legendary, and to take it to a Hall of Fame level, you have to be great in the most important. Like, here's the discussion. Eli Manning.
It's the
right?
one. It's the most disgusting thing in the NFL. At times.
In the playoffs, when it mattered, he was great. And especially for 2 years. And there was other games that he lost that he was still really good in, okay?
Yep.
I know he had awful games in the regular season. But like Joe Namath, they don't talk about that he has 47 more interceptions than touchdown passes. They talk about that he was great in
and he had
Super
a losing
Bowl,
record.
That he was great in Super Bowl III. Now, we had this huge argument with Uncle Jerry last night. Yeah. And I wish he was watching because he'd be like, you idiots. We were talking about quarterbacks and the Hall of Famers and he's like, what's your importance? And I'm like, he goes, why do we make it about all these quarterbacks? It's a team game. He's like, it's a team game. It's a team. They win. It's the 53 guys. It doesn't matter if the guy goes 0 for 12 and the team wins or he's 12 for 12 in passing and he has 300 yards throwing. It doesn't matter as long as the team wins, right?
Yeah.
Well, we were trying to explain to him, in today's society, everyone wants to make it about the individual that, like, hey, if the Vikings lose, it's all Kirk Cousins' fault. Or if the 49ers lose, it's all Jimmy G's fault. It's not. But to your question and where you were going with this is, the reason why I think Aaron Rodgers has the most pressure is because when we look at Aaron Rodgers and when we talk Aaron Rodgers, we talk about legendary quarterbacks. We talk about top 10 quarterbacks all time. We're not talking about top 10 quarterbacks this season. We're talking all time. Okay? And Aaron Rodgers has been, since he's walked into this league, has been considered great. But he only has one Super Bowl. And you just told me a stat that I did not realize.
Playoff record
that he had not been in the playoffs since 2016.
He's 5-6 since his Super Bowl win.
So here's the thing. There's certain quarterbacks that have no Super Bowls, like Dan Marino and Jim Kelly. There's certain quarterbacks that have one Super Bowl, like a Trent Dilfer and
Brad Johnson, guys like that. They have Super Bowls.
Then there's guys that have 2 Super Bowls.
Eli, Big Ben.
Tom Brady.
Brady's got 6.
Elway.
Brady don't have 2.
Montana. But I'm saying.
Multiple. Then say multiple.
There are very, very few quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that have more than one Super Bowl. Listen, Drew Brees has 1 Super Bowl. Rodgers has 1. You want to get to the category of 2 because when we get to the end of their careers and we're going to have an argument and debate, we're going to have the water cooler talk, and I'm going, okay, what's the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks that we've seen so far in our generation? I got my 4 right now. And hold on, Brady,
Peyton,
Breeze, and Rodgers.
Yep.
Okay? Then we're going to go, who's got the Super Bowl? So we would say, you and me would say Brady 1, right?
Yeah, obviously.
We would probably say Peyton 2, and then
Rodgers and Breeze is up for debate.
Up for debate.
Yep.
Now, we were hoping Breeze won 1 because now that puts him in a different tier and category.
Okay.
Now, if Rodgers can win it this year, because I think it's all set up for him, the Saints are out. So he's got an easier matchup than what he would have been facing.
Does he? They play the San Francisco 49ers. If they do win this week, they did play the San Francisco 49ers this year and did get destroyed 37-8.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm just saying.
Okay.
He doesn't have to play the Saints this week, though. He's playing.
He's got to play Seattle.
It's an easier matchup. It's an easier matchup. But my point of the conversation was we're not. Jimmy G is still younger. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers has already mentioned the word retirement, and this might be his best team that he's had since his Super Bowl team. And I think when you're talking about legendary quarterbacks, if you want to be put into a tier of historical category, whatever it is, there's great quarterbacks, there's Hall of Famers, and then there's legendary quarterbacks. If he wants to be considered that next tier up for debate, that's why I think a Super Bowl for him, it would be more important. And if he fails again, if he loses this weekend, it would be more of a hurt to his career than it will be if Jimmy G loses this week because Jimmy G has more to gain in the future and his first playoff game.
Aaron Rodgers already has his legacy. Aaron Rodgers is already,
but it's not finalized.
I know it's not finalized, but he already has a legacy. He already is going in the Hall of Fame. That's a given. There's no changing that. in the history books. He will be in the Hall of Fame one day.
So will Russell Wilson.
My point, I'm not saying Russell Wilson. My point is that Jimmy G hasn't done anything in his career yet to get to that point. He wants to prove the doubters wrong because he did get a huge contract.
You can use that same argument, though, with Kirk Cousins, though.
I know what Kirk Cousins is.
So what happens if he...
Because Jimmy G...
Did we know what Eli was before 07?
No. We didn't.
We did.
But now we know what his legacy.
He went on a magical
We don't
run.
know what Jimmy G's career looks like, his career outlook. We know what Aaron Rodgers' career outlook is. He's going to finish up as one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. He's going to finish, even if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, he will still eventually end up being one of the top 10 quarterbacks, maybe even the top 5 quarterbacks.
I'm talking about a guy that's there, that can increase his legacy, not a guy that's going to build his legacy.
That's a given. But Jimmy G, for a guy that got that big contract, and for all the pressure coming in, and he played for the Patriots, and he was good for the Patriots.
He's been to one Super Bowl,
and it's still the $1 million question: if Jimmy G can he finally get over that hump and win that Super Bowl? And that's why I see it as I already know what Aaron Rodgers is. What is Jimmy G?
They had this argument with Peyton. Eli had 2 Super Bowls before Peyton.
What is Jimmy? But I know that.
And that was the thing. It was like,
but he was still. It didn't matter. Peyton. Okay, if Peyton didn't have more Super Bowls, if Eli still eventually, if Peyton retired with 1 Super Bowl and Eli had 2, we're still saying that Peyton was better than Eli.
Oh, absolutely.
In the record books for everything, stats, he'll be higher up in the rankings. Aaron Rodgers, doesn't matter if he never wins a Super Bowl again, he still will be in that top 3 or 2 tier of quarterbacks of all time. What will Jimmy G ever be? What is his legacy?
To me, it's about...
And we always talk about legacy in the playoffs. It's a different animal.
My answer is Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, mine would be Jimmy G because I know what Aaron Rodgers does. I know what Aaron Rodgers is. I know what he's been able to do. I know he hasn't been to the playoffs either as well in 4 years. And he needs to deliver. But Jimmy G, for him to get to... If he wants to be that franchise quarterback, and most people think he is, but guess what? If he loses to a team that, is good, shouldn't win this week, shouldn't beat them, then it is a shot to Jimmy G. And if he plays bad, Rodgers plays great, and he still loses. Rodgers had bad teams, too, that got to the playoffs. Okay. Jimmy G has a great team. If he doesn't deliver, you start asking the questions. It's just how it is.
You're saying more so because he has an opportunity to build a legacy. For me, it's a legacy already built. But
Russell Wilson, you can also say Russell Wilson as well. Since his Super Bowl win, he's 5-4, but he hasn't been to a conference championship since 2014, in which he beat who?
Packers.
Exactly.
We just watched it.
Exactly. We just watched. It's still it's still fascinating.
Back-to-back passes. He had Doug Baldwin.
We're forgetting. We keep missing the AFC. We're talking a lot about the NFC, but the AFC. Who faces the most pressure in the AFC this year? There's 4 quarterbacks. Remember, Ryan Tannehill probably doesn't face any other pressure because he's Ryan Tannehill. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. I think this is very easy as well. To me, there's 2 quarterbacks. To me, it's Patrick Mahomes. Because everybody likes to say, it's like the Aaron Rodgers effect. Everybody was always saying, well, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. But what has he given you? He's given you, 1 Super Bowl. He's failed in clutch moments, 2 as well. He hasn't come up big.
You think more so than Lamar?
To me, yes.
Why so? Just because of what you were saying?
Because everybody likes to already put... There's a greater expectations with Patrick Mahomes. Everybody expects Patrick Mahomes that everybody puts him as he's the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He has been unbelievable since he's come into the league. He's changed the way
you don't think Lamar's performance in the wild card last year has...
I think that's why Lamar is second. Okay. That's why I have Lamar second. Because... what they've done this year to be 14-2, to win 12 straight, to dominate, to make everybody look foolish throughout this year.
I would say Lamar.
That's fine. And I would say Mahomes. I have no issue with that.
When we were just looking at the
I would have
538. So the 538 does an exceptional job of breaking down the teams and where the performance is. So making a conference championship, Baltimore is the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? making a Super Bowl. They're a 53% chance of making the Super Bowl. The next closest is Kansas City at 31. So there's a significant drop-off. That NFL and the way Vegas and the way analytic teams do stuff, everyone has Baltimore in the Super Bowl almost. It's almost like in a guaranteed type of way.
You would expect.
In Super Bowl. They have a 35% chance to win the Super Bowl. The next closest is the Chiefs at 19%. That's twice as much.
Yeah.
Okay? That's why I think there's a lot more pressure on the Ravens. Not only because they have home field advantage, they're the number 1 seed. Lamar just had a historic season. And we've seen historic seasons before during the regular season. But, you know, he's not playing with house money. He's got to beat the Titans. He has to beat the Titans.
Yeah.
Because if they lose, it's a total failure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even next week he has to get to at least the Super Bowl. Because there's going to be a but at the end of this season if they don't make the Super Bowl.
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
All signs, and I'm pointing to your or agreeing with your thing is, if you're talking history wise, Lamar Jackson's not going to win the Super Bowl. You want to remember the last time? I got a trivia question. See if you could get this, Ted. Last time an MVP has won the Super Bowl.
Will you say that again? Last time an
NFL MVP has won a Super Bowl. You have to take a guess. Don't take too long.
Was it in the 2000s or just can you give me 90s or 2000s?
It wasn't in the 2000s.
Brett Favre.
Nope. It was 1999. The St. Louis Rams, Kurt Warner.
Oh,
that was the last time an NFL MVP has won a Super Bowl.
I should have got
all signs. With that saying right there, all signs point to Lamar Jackson not winning a Super Bowl. Then, if you want to put your house money on it, just a quick little trivia question for you.
Damn.
But Pat, it's okay. I wanted to look that up because I was like, when's the last time an MVP has won a Super Bowl? And I'm like, wasn't Brady, wasn't Matt Ryan, wasn't Cam, it wasn't Peyton, wasn't Rodgers, and I had to keep looking. I'm like, no. I was like, oh my God, it was 1990. So almost 20 years, 21 years it's been since an MVP has won a Super Bowl.
And listen, I think we're both right.
You can't go wrong with either one because of how great they've been. Those are two of the future pillars of this league.
Listen, they are going to be and I'm excluding Deshaun Watson in this conversation just for this point. But these two guys could be the next Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, legendary quarterbacks that carry the AFC for the next.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it was always Peyton, right? Peyton and Brady, and then there was Roethlisberger or Rivers.
Roethlisberger could be like Roethlisberger is like the Deshaun Watson.
Could be the Deshaun Watson. Could be that third guy that never seems to get the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
But statistically wise, winning wise, team wise, franchise wise, he's right with those guys.
Exactly. I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of those, just like the NFC. And we've always talked about how this league is a driven league and this is a passing league. And Dave Gettleman last night, I looked at a quick 30-second clip of what Dave Gettleman was saying about running the football. And everybody bashed him and saying, like, he's out of touch with reality. And I don't think he's really wrong if you really look at it. If you really think about it, is running the football the main ingredient to winning a Super Bowl? And everybody wants to say, oh, this is a passing league. I get that. But it's a passing league.
Are you stealing my stat thing or video that I sent you there?
No, it's a passing league in it's a passing league in the regular season.
Yep.
But when it comes down to the playoff time, it's about defense and running the football. And if you don't think so, just look at the previous winners in the Super Bowl. The Patriots, the Eagles, they ran the football. Even when the Patriots won again, the Denver Broncos didn't have good, but they had great defense, and they ran the football. The New York Giants, when they won.
And here's the other thing. There was
the last team you could say that didn't really win running the football was Aaron Rodgers' Super Bowl year because he was on another level.
Yes.
Other than that, you can name off the teams. Running the football is the main ingredient. And if you don't want to, don't believe me, okay. That's fine.
Just
hold on. No. Just look at the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings and why they're playing, and teams like the Saints and the Patriots are not. And why the New England Patriots had such a miserable season and an unpatriot-like season.
So, to back your point.
I have the stats.
I know, but
I have the stats.
Before you put the stats.
See, I'm a stat guy now.
Yeah, you've copied me.
I've copied you.
So, this was said on a show the other day, and I sent you the video, and I'm like, this is perfect because we're going to use this on the show.
It was 7 teams. I counted 7 teams.
7? He said 8.
I have 7 teams.
But he said on the show,
No, that's fine.
8 of the top 10 rushing teams, and I don't have the rankings. It's not like 1
I do.
8. Hold on.
I do.
8 of the top 10 rushing teams in the NFL this year made the playoffs. So that's a significant thing when it comes down to playoff time, because can you run the football and can you stop the run? Because if you think, and I always relate this because I'm a Giant fan. When the Giants won their 2 Super Bowls, they had a 1-2 punch and they ran the football and they were able to stop the run, and their quarterback made
when the Patriots win the Super Bowl, they win because of great defense.
Listen,
and they have Brady
threw for over 500 yards against Philly, and they still couldn't win because they couldn't stop the run.
When they had their great offensive season, they lost to a team named the New York Giants. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Want to know when the Pittsburgh Steelers were really, really great? Because they ran the football. And I'll do you one better with the whole stat thing. I marked down all the 7 teams and still the playoffs. Or 8 teams, I should say. My fault. 7 of them are in the top 15. Baltimore's number 1. San Fran's number 2. Tennessee's number 3. Seattle's number 4. Minnesota's number 6. Houston's number 9. That's 6 in the top 10. Green Bay's 15, and then the Kansas City Chiefs are all the way to 23. You want to talk about stats, everybody? You want to say, oh, the stats prove the stats prove it. What's your point? What's your reason now? Everybody wants to say this is always a passing league. I get that.
Passing is good during the regular season,
I get
but when you get to the playoffs, when it's cold, it's rainy, and teams, listen, it's just like,
yes, because you have to change your game plan. Russell Wilson and the Green Bay and the Seattle Seahawks have to change their game plan at times now. And maybe this week they might have to, because guess what? It's going to be cold. It may be having some precipitation in Lambeau. The Houston Texans, they'll have to be able to run the football. To be successful this weekend for the Houston Texans, they're going to have to run the football.
Those 2 teams are the weakest teams in the playoffs right now running the football, the Texans and the Chiefs.
And there might be there's going to be cold weather at Arrowhead.
There might be snow.
There may be some precipitation as well there. So you're going to have to run the football. The Tennessee Titans, the reason they're playing on Saturday night and they're not home is because they gave their 230-pound or 240-pound back the ball 34 times for 185 yards and dominated the New England Patriots. Ran the football. The Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins, yes, made an unbelievable throw. But the Minnesota Vikings are in the NFC Divisional round, and the Saints are home. Well, it's quite simple. Dalvin Cook had 100 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and they fed him the ball. And the Saints had no answer for him. The New England Patriots had no answer. Everybody can point the finger and say, oh, well, the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. That's fine. That's all right. Okay. But when we looked for past years, the main reason is why you win a Super Bowl is ultimately because of defensive play and running the football. And everybody that, if they want to keep saying, well, the stats say,
here's the other thing.
I have the stats right here.
Sade.
The stats say that 7 of the teams in the playoffs are in the top 15.
Well, here's the other thing. It sets up the passing game even more so now. I mean, just look at the Minnesota game versus San Francisco. Jimmy G leads all quarterback in play-action pass yards. So
Kirk Cousins
leads all play-action quarterback passes in touchdowns with 13. So those 2 teams are so reliant on the running game, it sets up everything else because those guys are not Mahomes. They're not Rodgers. Now, the biggest thing we've critiqued Rodgers' constantly is, or the Packers, and not really Rodgers, is they haven't had a running game.
But this year's different with the Packers. This is why they can possibly win, because they have a running back that they can feed the ball to, an Aaron Jones like type player, and one of the bright young backs in this league, Aaron Jones, and he's had a hell of a year. The Kansas City Chiefs, the reason why they're getting hot and they're dangerous right now, and maybe the second favorite to win the Super Bowl is because they're
behind Baltimore.
Is because their defense is getting really good,
but
they're running the football with Damian Williams, Darwin Williams, LaShawn McCoy. They are running the kind of like the Eagles did back in the day with LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement, and Darren Sproles. Am I missing somebody else from these Eagles? I feel like the Eagles had like 5 or 6 running backs that year that they went to they won the Super Bowl.
And it just popped in my head. We're talking Super Bowl because that's what this is all about, getting to the Super Bowl.
We're 3 weeks away.
John Elway's teams and the Denver teams made it to the 3 Super Bowls and got blown out.
Yeah.
He couldn't win until he got a running game with Terrell Davis.
Oh, yeah. Remember Terrell Davis? Yeah, guess what? They won the Super Bowl.
Listen, as good as that Rams team was passing the field, it was, the greatest show on turf. Marshall Faulk had over 1,000 yards rushing. The ability for him to run the football.
So you can say whatever you want about how passing.
It's not that be all.
But you can say whatever you want about passing, and passing, trust me, is. I'm not saying it's not important. Please do not take that out of my.
Because when it's 3rd and 5, you're not running the football.
That.
You got to be able to make a play. A play.
What I'm trying to say is that everybody likes the stats nowadays. Okay, I get that. Well, the stats say that the reason why 7 of these 8 teams, playoff teams, top 15, and why the teams like the Minnesota Vikings and the Tennessee Titans are still there and still alive, it's because they run the football. And you look at it, they do it they're pretty damn great at it. And that's why all these teams are still in the playoffs, and teams that can't run the football, maybe with the exception of the Houston Texans. I was going to say the Tennessee Titans, but with the exception of Houston.
I thought you were going to say Dallas Cowboys.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was just going to say the team, like you just see it in previous years. I'm not saying passing is not important, but everybody always wants to say this is a passing. I get that.
But now let's go.
Passing, it's a passing league in the regular season, but when it comes down to it, that's where you separate the boys from the men, or the men from the boys. It's just that simple. Running the football.
I had another analogy for a team.
Running the football is
the Phoenix Suns in basketball. Remember the run and shoot?
Yep.
They're up and down the court.
High
but
pace
when you get to the playoffs, you're not going to be
Oregon Ducks.
You're not going to be able to do that. The game slows down in the playoffs because now your team's focus is on that team.
Yep.
So you're going to have to be able to win on the half-court game in basketball.
Just pointing out facts. And speaking of quarterback play, we didn't really get to talk about it on Tuesday because. Well, we were talking about the New York Giants and their big hire and stuff, but we never got to talk about it. And the 2 teams that we were talking about, and it was my Super Bowl prediction this year, and I have to make a new Super Bowl.
Where are we going with right now? What pitch are we going?
I'm making a new Super Bowl prediction. I have to because my Super Bowl teams. I'm talking about the pocket passer nowadays. And is that dead? Is the pocket passer? And we talked about this a year ago. Would you rather have the dual threat or the pocket passer? And now you're starting to see the game change. And I know why people want to say that the offensive line's not important. It is important. But when you do have a quarterback that could move in the pocket and extend plays,
makes your offense
a lot better. So I wrote down a couple of quarterbacks of the pocket passer age. The current quarterbacks that are still, you would consider pocket passers. Okay. Drew Brees. Struggled last week. Didn't look good. Got pressured. Can't really move. Okay. Brady. Got pressured last week. Couldn't really move. Rivers. No playoffs. Struggled this season. Eli. You know Eli. He got benched. His career looks to be done with. Matt Ryan. Missed the playoffs. And then the other one was Jay Cutler. Those are all the quarterbacks right now that you would describe yourself.
Cutler.
Yeah. Those were only the pocket passers that are still in the NFL.
Jay Cutler's not in the NFL.
He's a free agent, but he's still. If you wanted to put pocket passers,
yeah, you didn't go through every single thing because you could have been like Fitzpatrick, but he shows some athleticism.
My point is, a pocket passer pocket passer quarterback is a guy that just stays in the pocket. He does not move. He's pretty much a statue.
You know who's that? Can I tell you who's that right there? You forgot one, and he's in the playoffs still. Kirk Cousins. He's a pocket passer.
Kirk Cousins, with the exception of Kirk Cousins.
Total of 64
but
yards.
Is the pocket... Okay, so you just gave me one. And you could probably put Jimmy G maybe in that category.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 2 of the 8 quarterbacks. So is the pocket passer quarterback dead? And we didn't really talk about it last week with the Brees and the Brady losses.
I think... Here's the thing. It depends on how your team is built. And I'm going to make this really simple. You can have a pocket passer quarterback, but your offensive line better be a top 10 or better be a very good offensive line blocking passing-wise. Okay? Because if you have the Houston Texans offensive line who can't block anyone, you better have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson who can make plays with. Okay? You don't need Lamar Jackson. There is no Lamar Jackson. There's
never been Lamar Jackson. And Michael Vick is not.
The Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers athleticism is a realistic thing. Daniel Jones is a realistic thing. It's like the poor man's.
It's like Big Ben is another thing that
you don't have to be able. You don't have to run a 4.4. You don't have to be great athletic. Not everyone's going to be even Russell Wilson, but you have to be able to move enough in the pocket for rollouts, play action passes, and perfect example, Joe Burrow. And when we're going to talk about it next, his ability to move in the pocket and extend plays is greatly needed because when your offensive line can't hold up, you need to be able to move because you're a sitting duck. Tom Brady is a sitting duck there. We know that we've talked about this for years. If you get pressure up the middle against Brady, you can own the Patriots because his best attribute is moving up in the pocket, stepping up, and making the throw. You want him to go left and right. Now, with Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, and Lamar, you don't want these guys out of the pocket. You almost want them in the pocket. It's not.
Where would you categorize yourself? Would you consider yourself would you put yourself as a guy that I would consider myself a dual threat quarterback.
And here's the other thing. People have to realize this. If you don't watch college football, the college football game is leading that way, okay? Yeah. It's spread offense. It's movement with the quarterbacks. They're putting more athletes at the quarterback position. You're not seeing the typical prototype quarterback. Even the two quarterbacks that we're going to talk about in the national championship right after in the next segment both have athleticism. They're not pocket passers, which they are because they probably would be prototypically, but they look at what Trevor Lawrence did last week against Ohio State. Didn't know he had it. 64-yard touchdown run down the sideline. Did not know he had that.
Breaks my heart.
Joe Burrow, I've watched him. Crucial moments, the Alabama game.
The Georgia play. Coming across the field and throwing
remember
it to
the
Justin
Alabama
Jefferson
game?
and
it was
going.
The third down quarterback throw up the middle, and they go, that's going to be his Heisman. Is that going to be his Heisman moment? It doesn't have to be exceptional, but it has to be just enough to help your offensive line because you have to have a strong offensive line if you have a pocket passer.
What would you put me there? Would you put me as I'm a dual threat?
You're not a quarterback.
Can you give me if you had to? Am I a dual threat? Am I a statue or am I dual threat?
You're a statue.
Oh, come on. I'm moving in the pocket, man.
Yeah, you're moving, but I don't know.
Come on, NCAA football. I was the greatest quarterback ever. I was the best.
I just think that you're going to see more and more in the future quarterbacks with more athleticism. Yeah. And because that's the way the name of the game is.
And
here's the other thing. The defensive players that we haven't even mentioned that are playing in these playoffs, the pass rushers, are elite.
Oh, yeah.
There's a guy going to be coming in the NFL draft this year named Chase Young. He has exceptional talent and speed. Now, most quarterbacks are not going to be able to run away from him, but when he gets pressure, you're going to have to be able to move. And you have to have enough athleticism.
With the way the game is changing in today's day and age, this is what it's going to be. And players we'll always appreciate the quarterbacks like Breeze, Brady, Peyton, Eli, even Matt Ryan, guys like that. We'll always be greatly appreciated of those players and what they've been able to do on the field and display their greatness. But in today's day, just like everything happens, changes, the world changes, and we're always moving to bigger and better things, and you're hoping to become more advanced, and that's what it's become. The NFL is changing that way in the sense of the pocket passer is on the verge of being
Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins are pocket passers.
It's almost on the verge
they're pocket passers.
It's almost on the verge of being almost extinct because Breeze and Brady are going to retire soon. Eli and Rivers are going to be gone, and even Big Ben as well. And then you're going to have Cousins and Jimmy G.
I know, but here's the thing.
You don't have that many quarterbacks, so to see that, it's kind of sad. But just like you said, Ted, that's the movement of the NFL now.
Here's the thing. When we talk pocket and dual threat, everyone's going to have this argument. They're like, well, Aaron Rodgers is a pocket passer quarterback. Yep. Yeah, but in his earlier years, his ability to move with his legs, and he still got it. There's a lot of times I've seen him throughout the years on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, scramble and then slide and pick up a first down. He had the athleticism. I'm not saying they have to be Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson, but sorry, Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins don't have that athleticism. They're pocket passers. No. Tannehill has athleticism. Lamar has Deshaun, Mahomes,
Rodgers.
And then of course, the Rodgers Wilson. The other two games, the two pocket passers left in the game are in the Vikings.
Are in the first game.
And they're in the first game.
So let's
make our prediction.
I'm gonna give you. I want to ask you your prediction,
let's go by the team by team. Like we have it set up.
No, just quick prediction. Why? Who are you picking?
We're not gonna go pick by pick.
Who's winning and why? We're gonna start with the first game. Do we have the upset? Do we have the Minnesota Vikings continuing the run to the NFC Championship, or does Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers prove all the doubters wrong and stay dominant? I was going to say candlestick, but they are not a candlestick anymore. Who's going to the NFC Championship? Will we be going to San Fran for the NFC Championship, or could we be going to Lambeau or CenturyLink Field?
I think San Francisco wins.
Why?
And I
Why?
say think, but I
don't think. Pick it.
No, I can say think.
Okay.
Don't tell me what.
So I think the Minnesota Vikings win, but I think that maybe that San Fran might win too. Just who's gonna win? Come on, pick it.
San Francisco, because they're going to be the healthier team. Go into
really?
Yes.
Oh
well, Diggs has been dealing with a flu this week. Thielen just had stitches on his ankle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sucks, man. That sucks because you want to see a full healthy team.
And then also, San Francisco's getting D Ford back.
Kwan Alexander.
They're going to have all their pieces back. Not playing last week is a huge advantage. They had a stat up a couple weeks. Having that bye has been so tremendous in the last 7 years. It's almost been a 75% winning rate of teams with the bye going into the NFC Championship game. That bye is crucial. Yeah. And for the 49ers, who have been dealing with so many defensive injuries, that is...
To get everybody coming back at the right time is very important for them. And what do you got for a score?
27-21.
Okay. I got the San Francisco 49ers as well. I think the run comes to an end. But if they get to run the football like they did last week, the Minnesota Vikings have a great shot because they are talented. This Minnesota Viking team is a very talented team. I just love what the San Francisco 49ers have built through the draft with their defensive line. And if Jimmy G can play great like he's played in moments this year, then the San Francisco 49ers should take care of business. But this game should be a close one. I feel like everybody's really not giving this game a chance, kind of like last week. Nobody's giving the Vikings a chance, and I understand that. But they did just go into the Superdome or New Orleans and beat a team that we thought was going to be representing the NFC. But I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. They will be hosting the NFC Championship this year. I got a score of 24-21. I'll give you 3 points.
Very close game.
What's the spreads in this game are ridiculous, though. Like I saw Houston's a 10-point underdog. Or a 9-point underdog. The Ravens are a 10-point favorite, and then the NFC games are a little closer. But to see those spreads, damn,
there's still
no respect in the AFC. Kind of no respect.
Well, because of the factor of Lamar and Mahomes being so exceptional.
I understand,
and it's not a knock on Watson, but the surrounding cast around him is really poor.
That's true. So let's get into the AFC matchup tomorrow night. The first AFC matchup. Are the Baltimore Ravens going to continue this impressive winning streak, this dominant winning streak? You look like you're ready to pick. You look like you're going with the upset. I don't know what he's going to do. The Tennessee Titans, you know the story. They go into Foxborough. They pull off the big win. Are they going to be leading? Is Derrick Henry going to lead them to an AFC championship, or does the dream season of the Titans come to an end? I wouldn't consider a dream season, but
season ends.
The impressive season.
The Music City Miracle, the Nashville Banjo, and everything else.
Nashville Banjo.
It's going back. They're not winning this week. This is the Ravens seaven. They're winning this
game. Did you
game.
pick the Titans last week?
No.
Did you pick
I had them losing by 3 points. So I had them covering the spread. And I know we haven't talked about odds and Vegas stuff this week as we did last week. But I had a closer game. Remember, I had 3 scores of 20-17 last week.
You were close.
Which I was almost close in every game because that's what a lot of the games
were. But it comes to an end this week.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think this
Do you think Mark Ingram, do you think Ingram's injury plays a huge factor, though?
No, I don't. I don't think, because I think they have enough talented players around. I think the biggest difference is Ryan Tannehill is going to have to make plays this week, and he's not going to be able to. And this Baltimore defense is better than that New England's defense. They will come to attack. That crowd will be fired up. they will hit Derrick Henry in the mouth, and they will continue to, and he won't rush for over 180 yards. He'll might get 100 yards, but he's gonna earn it a lot much more hard so than he did last week. And I just think, listen, I think the Ravens start sluggish because they really haven't played as a unit. They sat out week 17. They sat out last week. So it's almost going to be 3 weeks until Lamar and that offense has been on the field. But I think once the second quarter gets in, and you start getting the rhythm of things, they're going to start flying high. They're going to start rolling. Earl Thomas, that defense, Marlon Humphrey, they got so many pieces on that defense.
What do you got for a score?
I think they win big.
Okay.
I think they win 31-17.
I think this is going to be a closer game as well because I think that the Titans have an alpha of their own, and it's not their quarterback, it's their running back. It's their guy they can lead on. I know what the Baltimore Ravens are. They're a juggernaut. They have the best player in the NFL this season. They have a dominant run game. Their defense has been nasty this year. They hit you. They don't make your day at the office fun. It's not. They just don't. They got great coaching. They got the experience coaching as well. I love the Baltimore Ravens. I want them to go to the Super Bowl. And if I had to make my Super Bowl, I'm going to make my Super Bowl prediction right now. My Super Bowl, because I have to make a new one, would be Baltimore against Seattle. I'd love to see Baltimore against Seattle. But I wouldn't mind seeing Kansas City against Green Bay. That's just me. I do think Baltimore wins, and I think they win. I think this is a game that's closer than everybody really thinks. I think nobody's giving the Titans a chance, but they have a great defense as well. They hit you in the mouth. They're gonna punch Lamar Jackson in the mouth. They're gonna punch this Baltimore Ravens team in the mouth and give them something that they haven't seen maybe all year.
Well, here's the thing: the Titans haven't faced them all year. So
that is true. So it makes it fascinating. It makes it fascinating.
Yeah, but this could also hurt you because there's one thing to prepare for a team. There's another thing to see Lamar Jackson in person on the field.
That's true.
When he's running by you.
I have a final score of 28-21 Baltimore Ravens. So we have half of our NFC and AFC championship games. Who's joining the party? Let's get over to maybe the game that everybody expects is this week's version of the Saints and Vikings, in which everybody thinks the Kansas City Chiefs should win, with the exception of the state of Houston, or the state of Dallas, or Texas, I should say. My fault. I expect Kansas City to win. But a funny fact, did you know that the Kansas City is 1-7 in the last 8 home playoff games?
Yeah, we knew that last year.
The only win they have is against the Colts last year.
Yeah, we know that.
Does everybody know that? I don't think everybody knows that. I think people just think, oh, well, they're going to be great because they got Patrick Mahomes.
That was the big thing last year when we were talking about the playoffs.
Remember I picked the Colts? I'm not going against the Chiefs this year. I don't go because Andrew Luck's not playing.
The Chiefs roll. I
think this is this week's blowout victory, and I think it's not going to be close. I love Deshaun Watson. I love what he brings. I love his excitement. He's one of the bright young stars in this league and one of the pillars of the future for the NFL. But Kansas City, they're playing so well right now. They're crisp. They're getting healthy as well, too. And their defense. That's been the biggest question for the Kansas City Chiefs team. It hasn't been about their offense. It has never been with Patrick Mahomes in their offense. It's about, can their defense just play to a level above average? And they have for the past 8 weeks. They've looked dominant. They've shut down people. I expect them to shut them down. This is also a rematch of early in the season in which the Houston Texans won. I do not expect the same results. The season comes to an end for the Texans. I got the Baltimore Ravens against the Kansas City Chiefs. I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning 31-14. Comfortable, and I think the weather is going to possibly play a factor, so we'll see in that. But this is this week's version of a blowout.
I say 27-14 Chiefs. And I don't have to add any more to it.
Okay.
Because these two teams, I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are the two best teams that are in the AFC. They've been all year. It was just a matter of the Chiefs getting healthy and Mahomes getting back to where he was. You said it right.
I think that was the biggest question.
Has been vastly improved this season with Steve Spagnuolo. Their biggest change is when they moved Tyrann Mathieu up closer to the line of scrimmage, where he is able to help in the slot, play defense against the run, blitzing, all types of packages. He's been an MVP caliber player defensively, Tyrann Mathieu, since he's made that move when Spags moved him up.
Listen, Spags, baby, doing Spags things.
The Texans, listen, they had a nice win last week. They should have lost. They should not be in this game right now. Deshaun Watson's the only reason why they are in this game. He will keep this keep them in the game for most of the time. But at the end, the Chiefs will win.
Okay.
And I look at the score as 21.
Oh, you said
27-14.
27-17. So we have our both AFC champs. We're both in the same AFC. This is where things could be a little different right now. This is probably the game of the weekend, the most intriguing matchup. Lambeau Field, legendary Lambeau Field, having the cold, maybe some weather. All the formula for an instant classic in Lambeau Field. And you get two great quarterbacks. And that's what it comes down to. The fascinating part of this is that you get probably the two best quarterbacks in the NFC this year, with the exception of Drew Brees. You already heard what I was going to pick.
And you know who I picked?
I'm picking, and I've already said it pretty much throughout this. I'm picking Russell Wilson in the Seattle Seahawks.
And I'm picking the Packers.
It's probably for me the upset of the weekend, because I don't think a lot of people are giving the Seattle Seahawks a chance because they're the injuries. They don't have that great of a team. If you had to put the team rankings, you'd probably put Houston and Seattle in the same kind of tier because of the factor that Russell Wilson doesn't. He has players, but he doesn't
I would
have
put Seattle ahead of Texans.
Yeah, so would I, but they don't. They're not far off.
I would put them.
Not like
I would put Seattle after the top. After the top two seeds in both conferences, I would put the Seattle as fifth best team.
It's not like the gap between those two is
I would
huge.
rank as Baltimore, Kansas City.
I think the Vikings have more talent than both teams.
I think so too. The question with the Vikings has always been the quarterback. They have two stud receivers. They have a good tight end. They have an exceptional running back. They have a good defense. Now, I'm not going to say great because I don't know if any defense is great, okay? Because we've seen the 49ers with great defense. They also gave up 40 points against the Saints. Wow. So don't tell me they're great when they give up 40 points against the Saints. That's not great. Great is the Baltimore Ravens of 2000 who never gave up more than 17 points a game.
Nope.
Okay? That's what great is.
Mm-hmm.
The Legion of Boom of Seattle a couple years ago, that was a great defense. The Denver Broncos defense would beat Carolina in the Super Bowl. That was a great defense.
I see this game being going into the fourth quarter, a one-possession game. I mean, you can't go wrong with either quarterback.
I'm taking the Packers 27-24 over the Seattle Seahawks.
You can't go wrong with either quarterback for the last-minute drive because these two quarterbacks are legendary with doing things like that. They do legendary things.
Pressure's on Rodgers.
The pressure is on Rodgers. The pressure is on Wilson as well. He needs to get to a conference championship. He hasn't been there in 6 seasons.
Also, Matt LaFleur's first
playoff game against Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll. But they've also stated, Pete Carroll has stated, that they are going to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch. They are going to feed him the ball. Feed the beast the ball. Guess what? Like I've said earlier in the show, running the football could be the main ingredient to leading your team to a Super Bowl. I got the Seattle Seahawks for part 3 in the NFC West matchup for the NFC Championship and a trip to go to Miami. So, our Final Four is set. Seattle, San Fran in the NFC Championship. And then we get Mahomes versus Jackson for a right to go to Miami. And you have the Green Bay Packers, the top 2 seeds in both conferences. I can't wait. Time will tell what this weekend's going to bring. Last weekend was great. There were a lot of great games. Let's see if a team could get over 20 points, too.
There might not be a better weekend than this weekend between the divisional playoffs and then Monday night, the national championship.
This is, like I said, it's Football Friday. I can't wait. I'm excited for these football games. I hope that maybe my prediction comes true, and I would love to see the Seattle Seahawks against the Baltimore Ravens. I'd love to see Green Bay against the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're a football fan, it's crunch time. This is it. There's 3 weeks left of the NFL season. Football's coming to an end. To all football fans, let's enjoy these last 3 weeks. Because last week started off great, and I expect the same exact results this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taking our only break. When we come back, like I said, there is a national championship to still discuss. Who would you rather have? Lawrence, Burrow? Who's winning the national championship? And has the layoff, 16-day layoff, hurt the importance and the relevancy of this national championship? You're listening to Keys to the City. We'll be right back, ladies and gents.
You're listening to Keys to the City, brought to you by All Noise Radio. Here's your host, Trevor and Ted.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. Yes, like I've said, there is still a national championship to discuss. It's been it seems like an eternity. And since we haven't talked college football, because that's what's happened. A 16-day layoff. It's unheard of. It's unthinkable. It's unspeakable. To think that we're about to go through 2 weekends of the NFL playoffs and still not have a national champion in college football is remarkable. But has it hurt the layoff? Or has the layoff hurt the relevancy of this game? Because this game has all the makings of a classic. It didn't matter if it was LSU, Ohio State, or LSU, Clemson. Those were the 3 best teams. And everybody that wanted to say, well, we need to have 8 teams. Not this year. There was, without question, 3 great teams. And then the 4th team was whoever wanted it.
Whoever wanted to lose.
Whoever wanted to win. And whoever had to have that chance to get embarrassed on national TV. These were the 3 best teams. We had a game that, unfortunately, my Buckeyes lost. But the Clemson Tigers come in 14-0. The LSU Tigers come in 14-0. Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Hilaire, Travis Etienne, Justin Ross, T. Higgins, Isaiah Simmons. There's a plethora. Granta Pitt.
Dabo Sweeney.
Brett
Venables. Joe Brady.
And don't forget about Coach O, baby. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
My thing is that college football was great this year because you had 3 dominant teams. And that's what we knew. It wasn't going to be like anything different. We knew what the results were going to be. But then you think about it, 16 days to not have a national championship, it just hurts. I know this is not going to be a yearly thing, and it won't be. But this is not a good look for college football because how big of a game this really is.
It's the way everything's set up.
And
with
I just
year.
said that it's a year. It's not going to be a yearly thing. This is just a one-time thing.
Just like the semifinal games were on New Year's Eve one year.
But it's almost like this is like the one year you didn't want to have this layoff because of the factor of how great these 2 teams are. And if it was going to be Ohio State as well, these 3 great teams.
I think it helps both teams
individually,
but it hurts the sport as a selling point.
I think it hurts LSU because of the way they played in that national semifinal.
It didn't make a difference against Oklahoma, and they had 3 weeks off, bud. Why would you think 16 days is going to make a difference?
Because Clemson's not Oklahoma.
So what?
This is a different team. The way they were playing,
it helps their running back.
Okay, that's fine. But with the way they were playing and how great they were in that national semifinal game, to literally every drive, it was so exciting because of the factor to see if LSU and Joe Burrow was going to be stopped in that game. At one point, you thought they were possibly going to put up 80 or 70 to 80 points because of how good they were. And to see them, this layoff could hurt LSU because of how fast and how hot they were in that game.
I don't think so.
And you have to prepare for a team that's been there. Clemson. They've been in this situation. Dabo Sweeney has been in this situation. Trevor Lawrence has been in this situation. This team has been in this situation. LSU hasn't. So for them to play the way they played on December 28th and to wait this 16-day layoff, it could hurt LSU. I know it hurts the sport. That's a guarantee because from what all the articles we've seen, it takes, and people have complained, and it does stink. It's not a good look for college football. Because of the national semifinals, how great they were. It was great. It was the Ohio State Clemson game was the most viewed college football playoff game in the short history of it, with 21 million people. People wanted to see it. For people to now say, oh wait, there's a national championship game on Monday night still.
Well, see,
I thought this played last week.
See, the average fan doesn't realize.
But even that, but I'm talking about college football fans. That's frustrating.
Well, for these teams, I think it's a benefit.
Because
you're going to get the best of both teams. You're going to get an LSU team that's fully rested, ready to rock and roll, building off of what they had already done to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to get a Clemson team. Now, they just went through a 12-round battle against Ohio State. That was a war.
Yeah.
From every article and things we read, that was a war. If this game was 7 days later or 10 games later, LSU would have a drastic advantage over Clemson because most of those guys didn't even have to play didn't play even the fourth quarter. Might as well the second half. Mm-hmm. And then Clemson just got out of a 12-round bout. So you're going to get Clemson at full rest and health. You're going to get LSU at full rest.
And that's what makes it scary,
and that's what's going to be great for the game because you're going to get both teams at their peak. And that's what you want to see for the national championship. That's why the Super Bowl, when they did the 1 year, I never liked it. When now they have 2-week gap before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They used to have 1 week at one point. They used to alternate. And sometimes that could be a hurt because, depending on how
the 1 week gap.
No, it's 2 weeks. The Pro Bowl's in between the Super Bowl and the
but they play on Sunday, and then they have the 1 week.
Then they play the Super Bowl. That's considered 2 weeks.
Yeah, in the football terms, that's
considered 2 weeks. 2 weeks to play.
In the normal world, it is. It's all right, buddy. I know you love me. I know you love me. But let's get into the let's get into the quarterback matchup. And who would you rather have? I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of these quarterbacks. You have the Heisman Trophy winner on the verge of maybe having their greatest season in college football history for a quarterback, statistically and just in general for what he's done to this team. And then you get Trevor Lawrence. Hasn't lost a college football game this entire season in his career. So he doesn't know what losing is. And you saw the gutsy performance that he played in the national semifinal game to come back and to play and to look great. He's been there, but who would you rather have? Like I said, you cannot go wrong with either one.
So when I look at these two quarterbacks right now,
yes,
and what makes this game exceptional is the quarterbacks. Now, I know you're going to be like, Ted, we had two in Trevor Lawrence last year, but we didn't know what Trevor Lawrence was total yet. I think this has the makings of the Texas Longhorns USC 05 national championship game, which some people believe is the greatest college football national championship of all time. And that was Vince Young versus Matt Weiner. Mm-hmm. Two exceptional quarterbacks. Heisman Trophy candidate quarterbacks, one who won one who probably should have won one. Mm-hmm. I just want to give you a little information about these two quarterbacks. So Joe Burrow, in the past 4 games, has 17 passing touchdowns and no interceptions. It's pretty remarkable.
You said last 4 games?
Last 4 games, he has 17 passing touchdowns.
Is that including the 8 touchdown performance? He's only at 17?
17 touchdowns in 4 games. That's pretty good.
Not include. I mean, but he had 8 of them in one game.
He has 3 games this season over 470 yards passing, and according to Pro Football Focus, he has a 70% completion percentage and a 146 passer rating when pressured. So that's exceptional, and we know what type of year he has. 55 touchdowns. He has over 5,000 yards passing. Then you look at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence in his past 8 games, and I know went a little bit longer with Trevor Lawrence, has 22 touchdowns and no interceptions. What I'm trying to get at is these guys are playing at an exceptionally all-time high level, and they're not turning the ball over. And Trevor Lawrence has a school record right now of 202 consecutive passes without an interception. So the question you asked me was, who would you take right now? And it's such a hard question because in my mind,
you can't go wrong with either one.
I don't know who to pick because right now Joe Burrow, depending on how this national championship game could go down as the greatest college football season for a quarterback in the entire 150 years of college football. This is the 150th anniversary of college football. Mm-hmm. And he could go down having the greatest quarterback season ever. And there has been some exceptional quarterback from the Houston quarterback Weir from the early 90s.
Andre Weir.
Tebow years. Matt Weiner years.
Cole Brennan. Case Keenum.
Vince Young. Tua's. I mean, you can go on and on and on, okay?
Sam Bradford.
But then you look at this guy, Trevor Lawrence. This is a guy that has not lost a game in his college football career. Nope. He's been exceptional in his college football career.
Yeah.
And then when I look at last week's game, being down 16-0, 13-0.
No, he's down 16-0 against Ohio State.
I was questioning myself.
No, he's down Ohio State.
To be almost knocked out of the game, to take a huge hit, to come back and lead his team to victory, to have over 100 yards rushing, to have over 200 yards passing, to be the leader, the guy that we all thought he was going to be this season.
That he is.
And he is. I mean, how do you go? You're picking a guy who's going to have possibly the greatest college football season ever statistically to a guy who's never lost a college football game.
I'm taking Trevor Lawrence. I say that with no disrespect to Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow, like I said, and you have said, Ted, his season is remarkable. It's truly fascinating to see how this LSU team, we know what LSU has been up until this point this year. They were a team that was really good. They were a top 10 program, but they never found a way to find a great quarterback to put them over the hump. And we always said, if LSU could ever find a quarterback that can be just like good, not great. He doesn't have to be Joe Burrow great. If he was good, they would have won 1 or 2 national championships. I really do believe that, because they were that talented.
All those years
to see where they are now. And that's credit to Coach O. That's credit to Joe Brady. And you got to give the credit to Joe Burrow, because those three are the main reasons why this team is 14-0, and this team has kicked ass throughout this entire season. And they've dominated.
And can I add to this conversation too? I was just, while you're talking, I'm trying to give you an answer, because I never really give you an answer.
I took Trevor Lawrence.
Because here's the thing. Trevor Lawrence has played in these big-time games. He did it last year. He beat Notre Dame. Then he beat Alabama. So he's been in a national championship game.
I mean, last year he took care of business against both of those teams.
And he's won those games, okay?
Yeah.
Then you take the game against Ohio State. Huge game. Maybe not bigger than the national championship, but just...
But that's what
and hold on, and being down. And he won all 3 of them. But then you got to go back to Joe Burrow in this season. A guy that's beaten 6 teams that were in the top 10 in college football.
6
teams he beat in the top 10 in college football this year at one point or another. Now, Texas didn't finish in the top 10, so you don't have to correct me anymore.
That's fine.
But at one point or another, it was 3rd and 17 at Texas, and we didn't know what Joe Burrow and LSU was, and he made that pass.
Yep.
To Jefferson
for a touchdown.
down the sideline for a touchdown to win the game. He beat Florida, top 10 team. He beat Alabama. He beat Georgia. He beat Auburn.
He beat Oklahoma.
He has exceptionally won every big game and played outstanding against every team that he has faced this year. He has not had one poor game.
Here's my thing about the Clemson thing, and the biggest question mark going into that national semifinal game was for Clemson. How would they deal with adversity? And I think they did a pretty good job, and that's the thing that I give the edge to Trevor Lawrence and this Clemson team over LSU, because that was their biggest question mark, is that can they overcome the adversity, and can they deal with a deficit?
I would say
they did.
So I'm going to give you my answer, because I want to make my answer now.
You still haven't made your answer?
No, I didn't make my answer.
I thought you did.
No, I never did, because
I said Trevor Lawrence.
Because I was making arguments for both guys. But I think the way this season has played out, I think I have to go with Joe Burrow.
Didn't you pick Trevor Lawrence?
I never picked him.
I thought you did.
No, we had talked about it during the week.
I thought you voted Trevor Lawrence on the poll.
I could change my mind.
Well, go change the pick then.
Because what it matters is right now. I think it has to be Joe Burrow, because it's magical. He's been phenomenal in every big game. I was just looking at Burrow, 26 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, over 2,700 yards passing in his last 8 games. He's averaging over 340 yards per game passing. I mean, the remarkable numbers that he has. Now, I can't even make an argument, because both of these teams are so similar. They both have outstanding running backs. Edwards-Helaire for LSU is a beast. Travis Etienne could have been a Heisman candidate. I mean, he was unbelievable. He's a back-to-back ACC Player of the Year. They're both receivers for both teams are going to be first-round talent, NFL talent. Players going to be drafted. T. Higgins and Justin Ross are phenomenal receivers for Clemson. Then you go to LSU with Jamar Chase and
Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. No, there's talent all over the field with this game. That's why this game could be one of the all-time greats. And one of my questions to you, Ted, before we even make the prediction and why, is if Clemson wins this game, have they become the new Bama? And if LSU wins, how magical of a season was this? And where would you rank them among its greatest of all time? And I wanted to say this quickly for Clemson. Why I said, are they the new Bama? Well, since 2012, their most losses was 3, 2014. They have had 79 wins since 2014. 13 an average. 2 national championships. They've been to 3. Now they've been to 4. They're going for their 3rd. Is this the new Bama? Because you think of what Bama did from 2009 all the way to last year. They were the cream of the crop. They were the alpha. They were the top tier in college football. You can never get over the hump and beat Auburn. Or, with the exception of Auburn, nobody was beating Alabama. Now you look at Clemson.
You don't even have to go on. They would be. If they win again, that would be 3 titles.
In 4 years? No, 3 titles in 4 years.
You're talking about a team that hasn't lost a game in 2 years. They would have 30-plus wins. They'd be going into next season as another.
That's probably the favorite.
As the favorite, winning the championship again next year with the best player coming in. You think about this. You're going to have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft this year and Joe Burrow going against the number 1 pick in next year's draft and Trevor Lawrence. That's the type of talent. I asked you the other day, can you think, and I can't. And
USC, Texas.
That you would think that you would have 2 of the top players in the NFL draft, especially quarterbacks, going against each other.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating to see that we're going to have possibly the 2 next number 1 picks in the NFL draft.
And not just in a regular season game. I'm talking about a national championship game. So this game has so much excitement in it. It will be the new Alabama. You look at their draft class. Clemson just finished as the number 1 draft class again. They are starting to bring in those type of people.
And if LSU wins,
they just got one of the top quarterbacks, dual threat quarterback, 6'5". I'm not even DJ.
Yeah, if you haven't seen him, he's unbelievable. Unbelievable talent.
He's actually playing scout team quarterback for them this week to get used to as Joe Burrow. So they had 3 of the top 4 defensive players in the country go to Clemson, the D linemen.
If LSU wins this game, where would you rank them?
LSU.
LSU wins this game.
I can't rank them historically.
Because you think of this team. Okay, I'll give you one better. I'll just give you in your terms. Since you've been watching college football, where would you rank this team then? Because you got to think about it. They have a 5,000-yard quarterback. They have a 1,000-yard running back. They have 2 1,000-yard receivers. Defensively, I'm not even talking about them because they have talent as well. Where would you rank them for the times that you have watched college football?
Easily top 10.
That's so vague because that's a given. Where would you rank them?
I see. It's weird because the game is.
The only team I would compare them to is USC back in the day.
Miami 01.
Oh, Miami 01.
That Florida 07 team was pretty stout. Was pretty friggin' stacked.
Yeah, I remember.
They were stacked.
I remember.
And they had talent all over the field.
So where would you rank this team though?
Top 5.
Okay. I'm just curious. I just want to know. That was it.
Especially offensively. They might be the best offense that I've ever seen in my 32 years of lifetime.
Okay. That's
offensively.
Alabama was very similar to them last year.
You told me that, and I could not believe that last year.
So everybody, and I kind of wanted to just be like, is this kind of like last year's game because of the factor that everyone was like, this is an amazing LSU team. This team is unbelievable. Joe Burrow's amazing.
Well, the difference is Burrow and Tua with the stats.
Well, the stats, okay. He had 5,000 yards and Tua had 3,800. Okay, that's fine. But he was out in the 4th quarter. I mean, Alabama didn't play. Remember we kept talking about it? Tua's stats probably would have been about 5,000 yards, 5,500 yards. Who knows?
Yes, sir.
But we think about it. LSU's averaging 49 points per game this year. Okay, nice. 560 total yards. Oh, you know what Alabama did last year? They averaged 56 points a game last year and 522 yards of offense. And then the defenses kind of was their weak links. 340 for LSU, 320 for Alabama. And then you get this Clemson team. And now I know this Clemson team is not as great as they were last year. But they're great in the sense of they've had to deal with the adversity. They have this chip on their shoulder, even though they are the defending champs. They haven't lost in 2 seasons. They still have the chip on their shoulder. And that's why last year, this team was so good last year, Clemson. But this team is different in the sense of, and as good as them as well. They could be 15-0 2 straight years. And it's fascinating to see what Dabo Swinney has created in Clemson. And it's awesome to see what Coach O has created with LSU. And I'm so glad that USC messed that up again because continue to make mistakes. That's why USC is a joke in college football now because that could have been your head coach. I know we're saying, oh, well, we don't know what he would have been. He was pretty good with USC. He was 6-2 as their interim coach, and they didn't want him because they couldn't understand him when he talked. Well, guess what? He's on the verge of possibly winning a national championship, and you're still in the dumps in the Pac-12. So whatever, USC. But Coach O, for what he's been able to do, bringing in Joe Brady and Joe Brady got to give the credit for him to see the transformation of Joe Burrow, for a guy that we never talked about. We never knew, for most fans, didn't know anything about. And now you see him right now on the verge of shattering the records in maybe college football history. Not shattering, but on the verge of breaking the records in college. He's not going to shatter. I don't think he's going to shatter because yardage I think he's still behind in yardage. And the touchdowns, he's only 4 away from breaking the record. Or 3 to tie, 4 to break. Colt Brennan's 58 touchdowns. The most interesting and matchup that I see in this entire game is the matchup of Joe Burrow versus Isaiah Simmons. Because Joe Burrow, I look at it as the coordinators. Brett Venables versus Joe Brady. That is also a very great matchup. But I would say because Joe Burrow, the reason why the last time we saw Joe Burrow, he made Oklahoma never want to come out and play football ever again. Isaiah Simmons, everybody wants to talk about how great Chase Young is, and I get that. Chase Young was the best player in college football with the exception of Joe Burrow. But boy, oh boy, check out number 11 because he's all over the field. If you can't hear number 11 or you don't see number 11, then you must be blind then because he is all over the field. Because he's playing in the backfield, he's playing in the secondary, he's playing as a linebacker, he's playing in the box safety, he's pressuring the quarterback, he's getting to the quarterback. He does everything that you want in a football player. He's just a great football player. Like I've said with Christian McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson, he is just a great football player and why these guys become successful. And I think that's the most intriguing. The Joe Brady matchup against Brett Venables matchup is as well. I couldn't disagree with you at all with that. But to see Joe Burrow, what he's done, to see what Isaiah Simmons is for that, he's the quarterback. He's the leader of that defense. He's what they listen to. Joe Burrow is the leader of this team. And guess what? For Clemson to stay in this game and make Joe Burrow uncomfortable and moments that we haven't seen him. And that's the other thing that we haven't talked about. Joe Burrow, he has the best offensive line in the country. And Clemson doesn't have a great pass rush like they did last year with Dexter Lawrence. That's why I said Wilkins. To you, matchup-wise, Ohio State would have matched they would have matched up better. Yes. This Clemson team last year would have matched up better because defensively because of the factor that their D-line was nasty. They had 3 first-round picks. And that's why I said Ohio State would have had a better chance because of their pass rush. Yeah. But I love the match because I would have loved to see Chase Young and the rest of that Ohio State defensive line against the best offensive line in the country, which did win the award for best offensive line in the country. And just go look at his highlights. He never seems to be under pressure. Look, these two teams, and even when he is, he's still completing over 77% of his passes. You know how I always like to say, "Oh, you got to be perfect." These teams don't have to be perfect because they already are perfect. These two teams are the definition of perfect because just look at their records. Look at what they've been able to do each and every game they step on that field for 60 minutes. You look at LSU. They haven't really faced a lot of adversity throughout this year. What have they been able to face? I don't think Joe Burrow has. I think this team, he's picked apart every team that he's played this year. But he's had tough games. Clemson because their offense has been so good. Clemson didn't face adversity up until the Ohio State game. You saw how they reacted to it. They came back and won the game, being down 16-0. You really worried about LSU though? Like you think? I'm not down 10-0. You have to worry? No. With that offense, they can change. They can change the game to make it 14-10 like this. Go ahead. Are we making our predictions? No, now? We're not going to make the predictions at all. We're just going to watch the game and have no predictions. All right, that's fine. I'm just kidding. Hell with everyone. No, make the prediction and why. So I want to read this off because this is the reason why I'm going to make my prediction. I'm curious to see who you're picking. So LSU offense leads college football with a 97.1% red zone scoring percentage. And you usually say, "Oh, Ted, is that good?" It's really good.
and a 78% touchdown rate, which is 5th. Clemson's defense ranks 2nd nationally in both red zone touchdown rate at 35% and red zone trips.
Yep.
So for those interested in the opposite numbers, Clemson's scoring attack is 9th at 75%, and LSU's defense is less inspiring at 63%, which ranks 84th. Now, you ask me why I say that is because the only reason why Clemson's in this game this week or this time is because they didn't give up touchdowns against Ohio State early in the season where they could have been down 21 or 28-0.
We at one point,
I told you when they went up 16-0.
Yeah, I know.
And I said to you, I said those field goals are going to come back and haunt them.
I know.
Because we used to talk about in the Giants all the time in history.
We talk about with the Patriots every time the team plays.
You got to score touchdowns and not kick field goals.
Yeah, Ted, I totally agree.
When they
with
went
you.
down on that first drive of Ohio State and they did not go up 7-0, they only kicked the field goal. I go, that's a huge win.
How
for
about
Clemson.
just the missed opportunities? The Justin Fields throw to J.K. Dobbins hits the end, hits right in the hands, but instead it hits the ground.
So the reason why I bring this up is because Clemson's a bend but don't break. You said it. They don't have the pass rush to get to Joe Burrow. And they'll give up a lot of yards. They give up over 500 yards against Ohio State, but they didn't give up touchdowns. But here's the thing. They haven't faced an offense like this all season. No one really has. I don't think in college football history we've ever seen an offense this good.
Well, for my time watching college football, no.
This talented, this good.
No.
I mean, everything from the offensive line to the quarterback to the running back to the 2 receivers to even Thaddeus Moss.
To even the coaching staff.
Who's the tight end and the son of Randy Moss.
To even the coaching staff.
Yes. The play calling. We have not seen. And that's why LSU is going to win the national championship because they're going to score touchdowns. Because Clemson's going to be able to score with them.
Louisiana, baby. They're going to win it in Louisiana.
They're going to be able to hold them out of the end zone like they did Ohio State. Ohio State's offense is exceptional. They're good. But there is a different
level. And they win in Louisiana.
But this LSU game and this team offensively is at a whole different level that I have never seen in my...
They win in the...
They would have put up 70 points against Oklahoma without a question of doubt.
Well, they scored 63, so yeah, that was a given.
Oh.
they had 63.
They might have scored 100 if they wanted to.
That's what I said. They were on the verge. Well, that's why that game was so exciting because you didn't know if they were going to be able to be stopped.
LSU is going to break the streak. This magical run is going to end where it should. In New Orleans.
Yep.
At
the Superdome. It is technically a home game.
Less than 50 miles away from the stadium.
It's technically a home game. So
everything about this LSU team has been magical this year. From the Joe Burrow story to the Ed Orgeron story to this whole team as a whole. Everything has been magical.
Is this how about this?
And I think it would. Is this? And I think it'd be great because what it'll do is it set it up for redemption next year for Clemson.
Do you know what this you said it earlier. Do you know what this is? This is the 2005 national championship. This is Texas and USC.
USC was on the streak.
USC, nobody can beat them. They were on the verge of. They were the greatest program in college football at that time.
Yeah, back-to-back.
The only difference in that game is that the Heisman winner was on USC and it wasn't Vince Young. Joe Burrow and this team. That was a magical season for the Texas team. That Texas team dominated everybody. On the Big 12 championship, they beat Colorado 70-3. They were a team on a mission.
At Houston Reliance Stadium.
Yes, they were a team on a mission. They played against a USC team that we thought no one can beat. They had Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush, Liner, Dwayne Jarrett. Who was the running back? Who was their back? Lendell White. The talent on the defense. I know I'm missing guys, but there were so great players on that team. On both teams. And that's what you're getting with this game. And it was in the Rose Bowl, which made it even more magical. And Texas came in, and you know how that game ended. And to this day, it could be the greatest college football game ever. Not even national championship, the greatest college football game ever. And this has all the makings of that. It's in Louisiana. This team's 14-0. Joe Burrow has been criticized forever. He's about to be on the verge of being the #1 pick. Just won the Heisman. Could be the greatest statistical season in college football history. Ed Orgeron. You know the story of him. Was at Ole Miss. Got let go of. Became the interim coach at USC. Got let go of. Became the interim coach at LSU. Became the head coach at LSU. Now he's about one game away. He's 60 minutes away from a national championship in LSU. And then you're playing against a team that has not lost, hasn't faced hasn't seen what losing is.
In over 2 years.
In over 2 years. They got maybe the best coach in college football right now.
They got the best defensive coordinator
and Dabo
in college
Swinney.
football.
They have the best defensive coordinator in college football. And they might have the best quarterback in college football. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers. I think I'm probably going to be, who knows, because I'm not a good betting man, but for what I saw, because what I saw against Ohio State, for them to be down 16-0, and most teams would sometimes just kind of pack it in the way they were getting dominated in that first half, and to see the leadership, the gutsiness, and just the experience and the great play of that team. And I think Travis Etienne has a huge part in this game because he is also from LSU as well. And I think nobody's really talking about that, the battle of running backs. Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow.
There's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
We can do another hour show just on this game.
That's why I think, and we just talked about it for the past half hour or so, the layoff. It plays a part in this game because this game, if this played a week ago and they had that week layoff, this game would be discussed so much more.
It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with that it would have hurt Clemson because of the amount of time.
But I'm picking Clemson.
What do you got for a score? What are you thinking? I'll put it this way before you say your score. I look at this game playing out at like the Deshaun Watson Clemson Alabama game where last man with the ball. I
got 38-35. I think that was the national championship score.
I think
Texas LSU or Texas Oklahoma.
Actually, you know what?
USC
That's a good
game.
score.
That's a lot, man.
What do you got? 38-35?
38-35.
I'm going to take the same score, just going to flip the teams.
Okay. Do you know the spread right now is they're a 5.5-point favorite LSU? I think that's really high. I think that's just disrespectful.
I don't think it's disrespectful because the way you're seeing this LSU team play.
I know. I just think it's a slap in the face. They're almost a touchdown favorite to a Clemson team that's
They're also home.
Pretty much.
It's like a home
Pretty much
game.
it is.
So, I mean, Dabo's going to play us against the world, and you probably might be right. But guess what?
He's been doing it.
This is good. Exceptional, folks. If you enjoy football, you enjoy sports.
If you're still up at that time.
Oh, I will be. Enjoy the Saturday games in the playoffs. Enjoy the Sunday playoff games. And then put the cherry on top on Monday night for the national championship. It'll be on every network possible.
Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, football's coming to an end. There's not much time left for us football fans. Let's enjoy it. I know most of our teams may not be in the playoffs, but this is why we call ourselves football fans, right? You watch football because you love football. So enjoy this weekend because there's going to be some great games from Saturday all the way till Monday night. I can't wait to see. We'll have a new national champion or we'll have a repeat champion. Time will tell. I can't wait to see it. Like I said, if you wanted to see our hoodies, you've seen our hoodies. If you want a new hoodie, if you want one, blue or black, you can message us. The $30. Let us know, please. They're very comfortable and they're nice. But like I said, everybody, have a great weekend as well. We'll be back Tuesday to discuss national championship and the divisional round games. Everybody, we are Keys to the City. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. Everybody, we are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.